Good afternoon. My name's Rita Sampson and I'm the Head of Faculty for Health and Care at Petrock. So thank you very much for attending this information, advice and guidance session about the early years and teaching assistant courses and the health and social care courses that we run at Petrock. I'm going to give you a brief overview of the courses and a little bit of information. I'll explain a little bit about the faculty structure, and you'll also have the opportunity to ask questions. You can put them into the YouTube chat and they'll be forwarded on to me, and you'll have an opportunity at the end as well if you have any questions. After the session, I'll be available to ring people back if you've got any particular things that I haven't covered or that you'd like to discuss in a little bit more detail, and I'll be able to do that after the live session is finished. So this is about early years teaching assistants and health and social care. So I'm going to explain some of the things that the courses have in common and give you a bit of an overview for those of you that are hoping to come and study those subjects with us. Excuse me, I'm just looking at my notes to make sure that I cover everything. So first of all, I'm going to tell you about the courses that we actually have for each subject area, and I'll tell you what the entry requirements are, because that's incredibly important, and that's something that we would discuss with you in person at your interview as well. So we have early years courses, which some people call them childcare, but officially they are early years and education. So they are level 1, level 2, and we also run level 3 courses. It's the same for health and social care. We have level 1, level 2, and level 3. We also run a level 2 teaching assistant course and a level 3 teaching assistant course. So I'm going to explain a little bit more about the GCSE profile that you need to achieve to get onto the right level of course. So you can progress from course to course. So if you start at level 1, you can progress on to level 2, and from level 2 to level 3. You have 3 years at college with us where you have free education if you're under 19. So you have the opportunity to move through the courses and to sort of move up the levels depending where you are starting from. If you want to get onto the level 3 courses for health and social care and for early years, those courses are the equivalent of 3 A levels and they carry UCAS points, which means you can apply to go on to university and do some further study. Now, I'm going to tell you a little bit about that later on, about progression routes from the different areas. But for level 3, if you want to go on to that level of course, what you will need is to have 5 good GCSE passes. And what we class as a pass rate is a minimum of a grade 4, and that will include maths and English. You need to have both of those to get on to level 3. Now, for some careers that you might be wanting to go into, there is sometimes a requirement for you to have a science subject as well. If you want to do health and social care, we do recommend that if you're doing level 3, ideally you should have a science subject at a grade C or a grade 4, depending when you took your GCSEs. So you need to have a minimum of 5, and it must include maths, English, and preferably a science as well. If you haven't got those grades, not to worry. If you want to do level 2, you can then progress from level 2 to level 3. What you need for that is you need to have 5 GCSE passes at a grade 3 or above, ideally including English and maths, and preferably a science, because that's very important in terms of progression. So for level 2, for early years and health and social care, it's important that you've got at least somewhere where you can actually progress on and cope with the level of work at level 3 if you are intending to move on from a level 2 course. So the entry requirements are really important. You must have a 3 for maths and English, including at least 3 other GCSEs to be able to do the level 2 courses. If you haven't got that level of grades at GCSE yet, and you come to Petrock and it's your first year with us in my faculty, what you would then do is a level 1 option. So level 1, again, you can progress on to level 2 from there, so that's absolutely fine, and you might progress on from there onto an apprenticeship or onto a different course in your 3rd year. But for level 1, you need to have approximately 4 GCSE passes where you've got grade 2s. Okay, there are some other options within the college if you don't have that grade profile. So what's important for you to know when you apply is that what your predicted GCSE grades are, and apply for the appropriate level course. If you apply for a course with us and you don't achieve those grades, we'll discuss what options are available to you and whether you want to do a higher level course or a lower level course, depending on your GCSE profile. So that's the entry requirements. There's also something else that's really important for both early years in education and health and social care, and that's a DBS check. So that's a really important aspect of the course. It's a criminal records check that you have to have before you can go into a placement. So both of these areas have quite a lot of work placement, and the settings where you are include vulnerable people and children. So you have to have an enhanced DBS check. So you get more information about that from the registry when you've actually been offered a place. But just to let you know about that in advance. I'll just tell you a little bit briefly about the teaching assistants. There's level 2 and level 3, and the grade requirements are the same as they are for the early years courses. So you need to have GCSE passes in maths and English to be doing the level 3, and you need to be working at a grade 3 or functional skills level 2 if you're going to do the level 2 teaching assistants. For both of those courses, there is a minimum age requirement. You have to be at least 17. So it's not optional for someone just coming to us from school. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about the courses themselves now. I'm just going to spend a couple of minutes telling you about the early years and teaching assistant courses. So they carry quite a lot of work experience. Early years has, over the 2 years, if you do a 2-year course at level 3, it has 750 minimum hours of work experience. So how we do that, we do it in blocks where you go into a setting for 6 weeks and then into college for 6 weeks. It is quite a lot of work, and you will be working on assignments so you can cover all the necessary content whilst you are in placement 5 days a week. So you need to be really committed to working in the early years sector. For health and social care, the requirements are a minimum of 100 hours, and that's the basic minimum. Over the course of 2 years at level 3, you will do approximately 300 hours, and there will be options to do extra work experience. For health and social care, we have a care academy at the hospital, which is on top of the normal blocks of work experience. So you might go and do a 2-week block. You will do some work at Pathfields, a local special needs school, where the students go and support the children in the classes and learn about special educational needs and disabilities and so on. It's a brilliant experience for them. That also forms part of their work experience portfolio. And then the students that are interviewed and are successful gaining a place on the Care Academy will do that on top of the work experience that the other students are doing. There's usually about 10 places for Care Academy. We do have a lot of applications for it. It's very high quality work experience at the hospital, rotating through different departments there. And it's been running for approximately 5 years now, really successfully. Lots of the students that have done the Care Academy have gone on to work at the hospital or gone on to do degrees in nursing or midwifery. And the experience that they've gained at the hospital has always been really beneficial. But you don't need to do the Care Academy to be successful on the level 3 health and social care BTEC. So entry requirements, okay, you need to reach the entry requirements. You need to be aware that you'll have to have a DBS, and you need to be aware that you will have to do work experience, and it's mandatory work experience. So it's not optional, it's something that you have to do to pass the course, and you will be expected to complete a work experience portfolio. For early years, that's actually quite significant. It's a very large piece of work. Level 2 at both levels also has some work experience. There is no work experience with level 1 independently. There are employability skills, which we teach as a separate subject to get you ready to progress on and move on to work experience if you stay with us and move on to level 2, hopefully. I'm going to tell you a little bit about some of the sort of optional extras, really, the things that we add in to add value to the course and make the experience of being in the faculty, whether you're doing early years or health and social care, really worthwhile. So both areas have something called an Erasmus Trip, which is where we go to Sweden. We obviously didn't go this year because of COVID, but we are hoping to go next year, and we've already done the risk assessments and planned. And that's a European funded trip, which is still will be running next year. And that's going for 2 weeks doing work experience out in Sweden. So we stay out at a place called Johannesholm up in the north of Sweden, and the students go into work in nurseries in Sweden, or they go into a care home that we've worked with and do some work experience there. And then they also do lots of team building and activities at the activity centre where we stay in Johannesholm. So it's a really brilliant experience. It is actually a free trip as well. The places are free. The students have to do a presentation about the whole experience to qualify for the funding, but it is absolutely a brilliant experience for students to do. We do quite a lot of different sort of little trips, like we might go to Exeter, go and visit if we're doing equality and diversity in health and social care. The students usually go and visit the mosque and the synagogue there and compare the differences and look at how that might impact on individual needs when they're working with people. The early year students always make a Santa's grotto with the travel and tourism students for a local school, and the children come up by bus and come and meet Santa in his grotto, and they've done that for the last 3 years, and it's absolutely fantastic. So there is a real emphasis on getting you ready for going out into the world of work and really getting to know your subject. So if you're signing up for health and social care or for early years and education, it's important that you've got a really keen interest in that subject area to really motivate you and make you want to do well on the course. I'm going to just talk a little bit about the group sizes so you know what to expect, because I think that's quite an important thing, and it's something that it can be a little bit different to school, and students and parents quite often ask us about that. So group sizes for level 1 are usually approximately 10 to 15 students, so fairly small. For level 2, it's usually around 20, 25, sometimes up to 30, so similar size to what you would have in your typical school classroom. For level 3, group sizes for both areas are approximately 20 to 25 in each group. So just so you're aware, that's the typical sort of group sizes that we might be looking at. We also have, as well as having your in-classroom learning and work experience, we also, in terms of getting you ready for the modern working life, we have digital skills where you'll be set some work, you'll do a digital portfolio, you'll do some online work sessions where you'll do that independently, but the teaching team will have set you tasks that you'll have on your Google Classroom where you do that independently in a specially scheduled session. So there's online learning as well as your face-to-face in-person lessons in college and your work experience. For level 2 and level 3, the assessment is done via exams. So you've got exams and units. Sorry, not just exams. There are some exams for 2 units for each level, and the rest of the units are assessed via assessment work where you write pieces of work, you'll set different tasks, might be case studies, it might be reports, it might be essays. So it's written work that you hand in, and you might have a 2 or 3 week period where you do that work independently outside the classroom, and then you hand that work in. It's marked, and then you might get a resubmission to add something to it, that's as long as it's allowed under the rules and you've handed it in on time and so on. So there is quite a bit of written work for level 2 and level 3. You'll be in college for approximately 3.5 to 4 days a week. You will have a study day scheduled. Each course has 1 day where they are not timetabled in college. If you're not on work experience, it's really important that you use that day to actually study and make sure that you're keeping your notes up to date, that you're tackling any assignments that you've got so that you can achieve a good grade. So all the courses at level 2 and level 3 are marked at pass, merit or distinction. A distinction is the highest grade that you can get, and a pass is the lowest grade. So in terms of progression, it's important that you're able to move up to the next level. So you need to be getting more than basic passes to be able to progress on to the next level. I'm going to tell you just a little bit more about some of the people that the students might go and do work experience with, in particular for health and social care, so you've got a really good idea of what happens there. So most of your lessons will be timetabled in college. You'll have a block of work experience, but when you're in the first year on level 3 health and social care, the students go out to Pathfields for half a day a week, accompanied by a staff member, and work in a class, and they do that for half the year, and then the other group will go because of the limitation on numbers, basically. So it's a really brilliant experience in the first year. In the second year, you will go back and do swimming lessons, so working with the children at Pathfields when they go to the swimming pool on a one-to-one basis. We've been doing that for a very long time, for at least 15 years. So it's a really interesting and good experience for you to get some knowledge of how to work with someone one-to-one after you've had that initial experience at school. So I think I've given you quite a lot of information there. So I'm just going to see if any questions have come up that anybody wants to ask. Okay, I can see there's one there. So a little bit about the new T-level. Okay, so we will be running T-levels next year. T-levels are a level 3 qualification, and the idea of them is that they are similar to the structure of vocational courses now, like the courses that we are currently running, but we'll have T-levels in early years, teaching assistants, it's actually called supporting teaching and learning in schools, and a healthcare T-level. And we'll be doing the supporting nursing healthcare route. So basically the T-level is a qualification where the students do 315 hours over the course of 2 years, usually with a minimum of 2 employers, where they do work experience and work on an employer set project, and they actually have to demonstrate some practical competencies as well as completing the theoretical side of the qualification. So it's a new qualification. The idea is to give high level skill, practical skill level, more so than there is currently on the BTECs. It requires a lot of working with employers alongside studying in the classroom or in sort of doing the theory side of it. The content is similar to the current BTEC. The aim is to really give students that might want to do a more practical, something with more work experience, and it will be quite a challenging qualification. It's the same for early years, or there's not much difference there because they've already got quite a lot of work experience on their course, and the same for the teaching assistants. Both routes currently for health and social care will enable students to progress onto university. The T-levels are designed for students that maybe want to go into apprenticeships as well. So students might do some work with an employer, and then they might decide to go on to university. They might decide to go on to an apprenticeship. So there's a core theory, which that's the basic sort of core of the T-level, which is very similar to the current qualifications. And then there are these different routes with practical competency skills that are assessed to pass the qualification. So the entry requirements for that are at least 5 GCSEs, including maths, English, and you absolutely must have science to do that as well. So you can apply for those on the website as well at the moment. Hope that answers your question. Okay, so that's a good question. What is the best route to take, T-levels, A-levels or BTEC? The great thing about post-16 education is that you can go through any of those routes. You can do a T-level, you can do A-levels or a BTEC. It depends on your personal preference. So A-levels, as I'm sure you probably know, are assessed at the end of the 2 years. So you won't have any exams in year 1 now, just all the exams will be in year 2. So if you find exams difficult and you might not like the idea of sort of it all being 100% exam based, you might prefer to go down the BTEC route or the T-levels. So I think it depends on your preferred style of working, really. But I want to reassure you, and it's the same for health and social care, if you do want to go into nursing, that you can do A-levels, you can do a T-level, and you can do a BTEC. So I think if you apply for a course and you decide, actually, I think I'd like to do A-levels, and you've applied for a BTEC, you can discuss that at the interview, and we can always arrange for you then to have an interview with a different area. So don't worry too much about that. The main thing is to sort of decide what kind of career you're interested in. That's the basic thing. The one advantage that you have if you do a T-level or a BTEC is that you will get some work experience and you will get an idea of whether that career is right for you. The A-level is a sort of slightly more academic qualification, and you might do a little bit of work experience as part of your study program, but not so much. So a lot of it does depend on personal preference. So I hope that answers your question and any anxieties about picking the right route. So apprenticeship options for childcare. Okay, you can do an early years educator. We have quite a few adult learners that do that, that merge in with the teaching assistants. And then you can do apprenticeships at level 3, working as a nursery assistant. We don't currently have a lot of apprenticeships this year. I think COVID has really made things quite difficult in terms of apprenticeships and for schools and care settings to take on new apprentices. It's just they've had enough to think about, I think, in the current year. So there are apprenticeship options at level 2 and level 3 for childcare. We're only running them at level 3 at the moment because the level 3 apprenticeships in childcare enable you then to be counted as part of the workforce. So there are some level 2 apprenticeships, but we found the take-up has been quite minimal, and employers are more interested in the level 3. So a nursery setting, for example, wants to have people with a level 3 apprenticeship qualification. Might usually run over sort of about 18 months to 2 years. But that level 3 qualification means then you can be counted in the number of staff to children ratios, which the level 2 doesn't allow for that. To pass that apprenticeship, you will need to have maths and English. Okay, so it's really important. If you really, really struggle with maths, some adult apprentices, have found that's been the most challenging aspect of it. They fly through the actual apprenticeship themselves because it's all work-based and they've got lots of experience, but they struggle with the maths. So there's something called standard apprenticeships now, which means that you have to get through the gateway to go for the final assessment. You have to pass the English and maths beforehand. Okay, so I hope that helps in terms of information. Any other questions? Okay, so no, really, if you're going on work experience for health and social care or for early years, we have assessors and the teams themselves will actually find the work experience for you. There's a couple of reasons for that. We need to make sure that you're going into the right sort of setting that's going to enable you to get the skills that you need to reflect on and to pass the units and so on. So for health and social care, depending on what the setting is, whether it's appropriate, whether it's risk assessed, whether it's accessible for you. So we try and make sure that we place you either in Barnstable or nearer to where you live so that it's possible for you to go and work experience. Something that I must flag up is that you have to get yourself to work experience settings. And so we try to make sure that it doesn't put any extra strain in terms of finding money for bus fares and things like that, that you can easily get there. For early years, the reason why the assessors will find you a placement is because you have to do a minimum number of hours with specific age groups over the 2 years. You can't do all your work experience in a school, and you can't do all your work experience in a nursery. There's very specific work experience criteria that you have to meet. And when you have your observations, for example, you have to do some experience with babies. So that means under the age of 1. And there's various tasks and things that you have to be able to show that you can do. And then you have to do a minimum number of hours with children between the ages of 2 and 5 and so on. So it's important that we rotate the students around the settings. So that's all organised for you. Okay, next question. So any costs associated with childcare or health and social care? The DBS is approximately £53, something around that. You do have to pay for that, and you have to pay for that before you can go into a setting. You have to get that back. Settings won't be letting you in unless you've got proof that you haven't got any criminal convictions. I'm trying to think if there's anything. The health and social care students have the opportunity to buy a polo shirt when they go on work experience. It's got a little logo on, so that people know they're a health and social care student. But apart from that, there are no other costs associated with doing the course itself, apart from your bus fares to work experience. Okay. So they're the same. Okay, I should have read the question out, Rosie, sorry. So which course would you gain more UCAS points from, T-levels or BTEC? So it's the same. Okay, so you will get the equivalent of 3 A-levels. How your UCAS points how they work, depending on your grade, basically. So I can't remember the points off the top of my head, what equates to how many UCAS points, but you can earn the same amount of UCAS points from BTEC or T-levels. That there is parity, so they're sort of equal weighting, if you like. They're both suitable routes, okay, in terms of going on and progressing on to university, which obviously is quite important for a lot of students at level 3. Okay. Got any more questions? Not sure? Okay. I'm just going to tell you a little bit about typical careers in terms of health and social care and the early years sector. Obviously, if you're doing a teaching assistant course, you might want to go on and carry on working within teaching assisting and doing that. Or you might want to go on and then progress on into teaching, and quite a few of the students do that. Typical careers from the early years sector are things like nursery nursing, primary school teaching. Sometimes students might go on and do psychology as a degree. They might go on and work as family support workers, working in a special school. Some of our students from the early years, we've got an apprentice working down at Pathfield School who started off with us as an early years student, is now doing apprenticeship. And for health and social care, quite a few of the students apply for nursing. There's different kinds of nursing. There's lots of different careers in healthcare that you probably won't even have heard of, that you'll find out about as you're doing the course. So nursing, again, psychology degrees, special needs teaching, early years teaching. There are different options within Petroc, and obviously there's lots of different university courses around the country for early years and health and social care students. So they're the sort of typical careers, but there is a whole range of different things that you can do. Speech and language therapy, and lots and lots of different roles that you won't even have thought of. They're really interesting courses. I think the key thing is to have that real commitment to that area to motivate you through and make sure that you progress onwards. Okay, so if you've got any questions, you can contact the advice and guidance team. If there's any specific questions that I need to answer, I'll try and do that today. If not, you'll be contacted at a later date, sort of perhaps on Monday, but hopefully we should be able to get back, depending how many inquiries there are, we should be able to get back to people today. Okay, hope you found that informative, and I haven't bombarded you with too much information. All right, so please apply, or get, if you need some more information, to do that. Okay, thank you very much for your time today. Really appreciate it.